Is something shooting up sideways here? Glad to have you with us. Today we're talking about a Delonghi Espresso machine. Of course it has two problems right away. First, the seal at the top is completely broken, so water starts leaking out. And then there's an additional issue to consider. There is a Y piece inside with a valve on it. The creamer valve is located right underneath it. With that part, it's leaking at the top and spraying out, which actually, from a manufacturer's perspective, that's really unacceptable, if you ask me. Because honestly, if you know this could happen, you could just remove all the electronics here. On this machine, sure, the control block, that's all down below. But still, the water sprays around so much everywhere. It's only a matter of time before the water reaches the bottom too. In my case, it was just the LED display. Two LEDs just broke. Well, I can still manage with the machine anyway. And now I just want to fix the problem and hope I can somehow save the machine. Whether we manage to do that or not, I'll see as the video goes on. Let's take this off now. Alright? Now, there we go. So now, of course, two screws appear here, and we'll take those off first. Now here's an important part. Now we'll lift this up upwards. Of course you can't pull it out completely, otherwise you'd break off these tabs at the front. So we'll lift it up and pull it in this direction. For that I have a spatula like this. I definitely wouldn't use a screwdriver here, otherwise you'll break off the delicate parts. You can just go underneath with something like this, and then you lift it over these little bumps, and then it pops out at the front automatically. So let's take a look at it from the side. There. And now it should pop out right here. So let's go ahead and just try it. It doesn't quite want to come out yet. Okay, let's wiggle it a bit more here, please. Up. Aha. Now we finally got it. The main reason for all this is that we have these tiny little tabs right here, and they're securely hooked in. And if you had just pulled the thing straight up, if you had pushed it upwards, it would have broken off here. We have that on both sides, so here and here. Now let's disconnect the plug here. There's a plug up here. And once we get to it, there, yes, it works. Of course, you can also disconnect the ground wire, but you can just let it hang down as well. I'm just going to let it hang down here now. First, let's take out the micro switch. It's loose. There, it's already lighting up. Now we're going to remove the tap on the side. We just pull on it. So you can hold this here a bit and try to pull it a little because it's on there pretty tight. There it comes. So off it goes. Now up here we have a spring inside. We'll remove that. It's a kind of retaining clip. We just pull it out. This is what the part looks like. And then you can already pull off the hose here. Normally there's a sealing ring here, but in this case it's inside. So now we can already loosen these two screws here. And then we can also remove this part here. I'll just put this somewhere else so it's not in the way. Now we have a kind of bridge in here. We also need to remove that. Yeah. There's also already a seal in there, a kind of safety lock. So then we can take that off. We'll just set that aside for now too. For now we can just hang it here. That's the check valve. We need to make sure it goes back in there properly later. Now we'll also put the sealing ring in here. We'll replace that with a new one too. once, twice. If you press here, nothing happens, so it doesn't go down through. You have to turn it. Basically, use the pliers here to very gently turn the check valve in the middle so that the holes line up perfectly with each other. And now you can actually push the whole thing all the way down and out. But not all the way. Maybe a bit more. It wasn't quite enough. But here, just a little bit more. But that's almost everything. So nice. If it's loose, of course the screen up here will turn around as well. And then it comes out at the bottom. Now I have it hanging here with pliers, so if you just want to replace the gasket, for example, or if you just want to replace the screen, then of course you don't have to take apart the whole machine. Because you could do it like this without having to remove all the stuff. You have to remove it, but I'll show you anyway. So now you can unscrew the screen here. Now you take the screen off here. Then in the middle here is the creamer valve. Because of this, the screen will need to be cleaned thoroughly once more. And up here you have a gasket around the entire outside. If that's leaking, then the water will slowly trickle down along the outside here. Down. So you can clearly see it right here. You simply screw it in like this and it seals tightly inside here. Up here is the digital screen and it seals perfectly here. So now you can safely close it right here and then just press down firmly. Is there pressure here? And then it's done. So there really shouldn't be any water running here. If water comes out here, then the gasket is leaking. You can easily replace it without having to take the machine apart. If you want to remove the gasket here, you just open it up here from the side. Like this. And then you just take it off. I mean, you can already see that the gasket isn't really good anymore. It's actually supposed to be white. Good silicone deteriorates over time. But coffee grounds also collect in here. In this groove. The groove is there for a reason. That's where the filter sits. Here the filter sits right in the groove. But as I said, with ours the water comes out at the top. And there's another gasket. And let's take a look at that one now because it's still inside the machine. There it is already. That's what it looks like. So with this gasket you can only install it in one position because it has this little nub here. Yes, and now it seals off the area. Looking just above the machine, you can clearly see the very last notch on the rubber gasket right here. And those are exactly the same notches that come from the portafilters. And really, you can't, you don't actually put it in like this, but rather you can also put it on like this, but you have to make absolutely sure this little raised bump right here, it has a tiny hole inside. And that bump fits exactly into that hole. So you really can't install the gasket incorrectly. It has to go in this position. So up here you can see the hole right here. That's where the gasket belongs. Of course this gasket won't do you any good if the O-ring here isn't sealing properly. Yeah, because if the O-ring is leaking, water will also get into the machine. At first that's not a big deal, because there's not really any electrical components where the water collects. The only significant issue I had was that the Y-shaped connector piece right at the top. This entire section right here has been blown out. It really shot out of the top, and then I tried to melt it back in with a soldering iron up here. I managed to melt the plastic a little bit, and it kind of worked somewhat, but it wasn't a complete success. Water still kept running down here, so it sprayed all over the place. The problem was old. It was caused by all the spraying around. The water ran up into the electronics at the top. The water where the LEDs are, so that thing, I definitely have that. New. I have everything here completely new. And here I also have the entire portafilter completely new with the gasket. We'll just go ahead and install all of that back in here. Now we're going to do this ourselves again. So at this moment I have the entire set of equipment here. The filter is already in there now. And then right in here we have the portafilter. Now here we have the brand new gasket inside and the upper gasket. Now it is also extremely important to remember to use those guide pins once again to ensure everything is aligned correctly. Alright, now we'll install everything and then see if it works. Now is of course a great time to subscribe to my channel and maybe give this video a thumbs up, because that is something people often forget to do. So right now I will put the gasket in here first. Right past here, and then it is extremely important that we carefully put the pin directly into this. There it is already, there it is. Alright, then we will just leave the gasket hanging up here for now, for the time being. Because as I mentioned earlier, with this specific component right here, it absolutely has to be screwed in first, so we simply cannot put the gasket on beforehand, since the gasket needs to be seated in this exact position. It needs to stay firmly in place, and that is why you have this small nub at the top, which ensures the gasket doesn't move around anymore. Now we move on to this next part, but first we will carefully put the other gasket in between here to make sure everything is aligned. It has to be like this, exactly. Then here it basically gets pushed on like this. And then the screen goes back on here, otherwise let's do it nicely like this, counterclockwise. Good. It's also well filmed by the machine, since I like this. And now we turn it over. And now we have to here. That's how we have to put it in. But we can also tighten the portafilters, just normally, snugly tight. That way I won't have the problem later of wobbling around, or whether it fits in properly. It actually fits even better than with the old gasket. Alright, so now we finished that. Now we'll put it back together like this. First put it in right up here, place it on one time, and then rotate it around once. Now, exactly the way you want it. So, now the mounting holes are lined up again. If you look down here, you can check whether the gasket is still sitting cleanly in place. So, now that it's nicely positioned, next we'll screw the two screws back in tightly. If you want, you can also put a bit of silicone grease on it. The gasket, like this. A small gasket goes on this part. So, these should also be replaced with new ones. Of course, it could be that they all still seal, but you should replace them with new ones. Now we have the new Y-piece gasket in place. Now I'll slip this over it. Just make sure to be careful not to let the valve come off. Now we press it in a little bit. You can feel the gasket slides in smoothly. I am going to do it carefully with my finger, just using my finger for now, and then I will slowly push it in a little bit further. Oh, what I mean is that I am going to start turning it right now. Now this specific piece goes right in here. After we have finished that part, we will put the holder in here as well to keep it secure. There we go. Now we just put them in. Give it another pull. Fits. Now I'll screw this part tight first. Now the other hose goes in here, but first we have to remove the others again. Alright, once under the hose. Of course, the old gasket stays in here now. Now we'll put the gasket on here. Okay, so now this one goes in like this. Press it in a bit more. There, because it has to... The locking clip has to go past this brass ring. So if the clip fits in, then it's good. There we go. You can also insert the clip from the other side. It really doesn't matter which way around it goes. The main clip is in. Of course, we'll give it another pull. Good, it fits. Now this one comes off here. Now it goes back into the SO base. This way around. Once down here inside. Twice, 3 times. Like that. For the foam part, put this piece back in. There. Once. Up here, the old rubber hose is still in place, and that's perfectly fine, it fits well. Actually, you should probably do another one, but I'll just put it back in from the top, nice and secure in there. Click it in, pull, check the fit, and it's in. Now don't forget the micro switch up here. That needs to go back on as well. There we go. Good. There's also a groove up here. A wider groove, so you can't install it the wrong way. Now we go in there. There. Then you see that this touches the switch here. Alright, done. So now we're basically done for now. Now we just have to reconnect the plug to the control unit. Alright, now I'll turn the machine on. As I said, for me only this one light up here still works. The others broke because this shot out here, the water ran in up here, and then somehow it caused a short circuit. But I know when it stops blinking, that means the machine is heated up. So it's definitely sealed now. As I mentioned, the water was leaking out here from the seal. So let's take another look at that now. Let's check it. Very nice. So there's no water coming out here or here. Like I mentioned before, if you see water leaking out right here, then this rubber seal is definitely broken. Or this one here. And if water leaks out up here, then this seal here is broken. Or rather, it no longer seals properly. So now let's test the steam again. Of course the light is broken too, so I just have to wait until it starts to hiss. Because that's how I test the valve here. To make sure it works. That all looks good. Now put this thing in here. Right onto the corners like this. Do you push it a bit forward and down? There's a cable here, so if I squeeze it, obviously. Crap. Now we are not quite in at the front here, so we have to take it out once again, because it simply did not work this time. Now we have to do it very evenly on both the right and the left sides again. Let us try it one more time, keeping it nice and even, and now it is finally in. We're on here too. Now the screws go in here. Then put the tank back on. And done. That's it from me again. If you enjoyed the video, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel, feel free to subscribe for free. Of course, that way you won't miss any of my future videos. I hope I was able to help you with this video. Take care. Bye.